Okay, Papa. Welcome all to another Jokatech podcast starring yours truly, Jokatech. This week's podcast is a doozy. This is regarding the recent event, some would consider it possibly a spectacle, that was the Netflix showcasing of Iron Mike versus the problem child, Jake El Gallo Paul. Now, I'm not going to do a breakdown. Stephen A. Smith, Shannon Sharp, everybody has dug into it and they've given their little layman takes on things. I mean, I was just laughing. Stephen A. was calling Francis Ngannou the Nigerian nightmare. The idiot doesn't realize he's from Cameroon. But I've heard enough layman talk. I'm kind of over it now. So let a true pundit speak. This sport, as they call it, has a lot of facets to it. There's a lot of X's and O's, as most don't really have the ability to follow that because they see it from the perspective of they love the Gotti Ward fights, they love the Hagler-Hearns wars, and they love the Ali Liston, the Ali Frazier series. That's all they know about boxing. But they're X's and O's. It's a game of hit and not get hit. It's a game of attrition. It's a game of angles, a game of inches. Why they chose a larger ring size, I'm not exactly sure. But I'm hearing a lot of talk of fatigue that I want to address. That's the key point that I wanted to get into. Tyson, 58, aging. He looks like he aged 20 years after between signing the fight and fight night. It looks like he aged 20 years. I don't know what that was about, but he had health issues in the summer that he tried to address. He somewhat tended to them. When I saw the event getting pushed off once, twice, I knew something was up. But let's be clear on something. There's a misconception when it comes to age that when you're up in years as an athlete, your capacity for stamina somehow drops to the floor and you can't even make rudimentary movements or do anything without tiring out instantaneously. And that's extremely stupid thinking because it's not true. What happens as you get older as an athlete is your drive and the attrition to train your stamina takes a hit, and it becomes more difficult to train your stamina, but your capacity for stamina does not diminish to that degree. The fact that everyone is believing that Mike Tyson, who, yes, he looked poor in his last outing professionally, not the Roy Jones fight, which everyone keeps forgetting to talk about, where he looked actually good, but they're going back to 2003 or 2005, whatever, when he fought Kevin McBride, and he gave up in the ring in the 7th round. It doesn't matter what wear and tear we're talking about. It is not stamina, it is not age that is going to make you incapable of stepping forward after half of a round. He didn't come out and exhaust himself throwing several combinations. He came out and he threw a couple of shots. At one point he caught Jake, and it seemed like after that he took his foot off the gas and he just could not step forward. And all he seemed to be doing was trying his best to stay out of danger, which he didn't really do a good job of. Jake was getting bad angles on him. That's a whole other thing to discuss. Jake was getting nasty angles on him, but all he did was continue to reset, step back. He would shuffle in place every now and again to kind of check and see if his legs were under him. But like Roy aptly said, Roy Jones, something was off with his legs. This is not a matter of stamina. I keep hearing these laymen talk about stamina. It's not stamina. You really think that that's how it works? You get old, and then you go from being able to fight 10, 12 rounds to all of a sudden 30 seconds and you're done and you can't fight again? Are you stupid? You do know that's not how stamina works, right? It doesn't matter how old an athlete is. Evander was around the same age when he went up against Vitor Belfort, also in a sanctioned boxing match. Vitor was every bit, if not more, dangerous than Jake Paul. Holyfield was stumbling around the ring. Once again, legs off, legs gone. No one's really sure why. It was not a stamina issue. The difference with Mike was he wasn't taking those steps. His legs were gone and he just wasn't stepping in. He wasn't going to commit to punches and fall all over the place like Evander. It wasn't a matter of him being tired and too gassed to throw shots. Stamina doesn't fall off a cliff like that. Your attrition will take a bigger hit, not your stamina, not your ability to go rounds. I mean, I can see if we're talking 7, 8 rounds, okay, we're deep in the fight, and Jake is still pouring it on, and then Mike starts showing his age because he can't take that kind of wear and tear. Okay, then we're talking stamina. But we're talking about a guy that completely collapsed halfway through the first round, and you all think it's stamina. Come on, man. You guys got to get educated. You don't know anything about the sport. Not even the rudimentary things. Whatever it is, Tyson doesn't seem to want to divulge. He seems to be very okay with his performance. I've heard several people say that it's possibly the fact that he takes shrooms. That's plausible. I don't know why he would do something that dumb before that fight. But whatever the case is, it does seem as if he was at peace. Even if Jake wasn't aware of what was coming, it seems like Mike knew and Mike was at peace with it. He seemed way too okay with that low output and, I mean, really an endangerment to himself. He seemed way too okay with it. So at some point he might divulge the truth or he may not. Bottom line is, it wasn't a stamina thing. And one thing about Mike is, even when he was in his heyday, see, the problem is that all people remember is the knockout. But if you go back and you look at his, and I think Roy Jones got into this a little bit on the All the Smoke podcast, but I'm going to go deeper with it because if you go back and you look at Mike in his prime, forget about recent past. The guys that he was disposing of within a few rounds, if you go back and analyze some of those fights, you'll notice Mike has a tendency to be a sucker for the jab and to get caught at very bad angles and put in very bad positions. And there were times where it looked like if he didn't have the level of attrition and the toughness that he had, he probably would have been out of there in some of those fights. Because guys would rally, I mean, Bustin Mathis Jr., I mean, there were a couple of guys, mid-tier guys, that he kind of disposed of within a few rounds, 6, 7 rounds or whatever. But earlier in those fights, they were getting nasty angles on him. And that's one thing that separates Mayweather from a lot of fighters. Everyone thinks that it's all about the flash and the combinations and the big punch. Boxing is a game of angles. One of the things that always impressed me about Floyd, as he got older and stepped into the ring with younger competition, he was that rare fighter that had the ability to have you on the edge of your seat worried, if you know what you're looking at. Worried for his opponent, because he's a master at footwork. He knows how to get right to that nasty angle, that oblique 45-degree angle on the outside of the lead leg, where you have a good position to let off uppercuts, jabs, and to turn the opponent. Floyd was a master at getting to that spot. And Tyson has always been a master at receiving that angle. Because really, something as simple as that kind of footwork, you could be as old as dirt. And you could be very dangerous and formidable. Mike was getting turned and put in bad spots the whole night by Jake Paul, but it's not new. He's been like that his whole career. He's just been able to kind of muscle through it And this time around, he can't. His legs are gone. He's got nothing left. So that's really the true science of it. It's a game of angles that he never had, and legs that were compromised for one reason or another. He looked shredded. He looked in good shape at the weigh-in. At the weigh-in, he actually looked like he was going to do something. And I guess that was him putting his best foot forward, because none of that was real. It was smoke and mirrors. And he came and you saw what it was. But don't mistake that for being a 58-year-old thing. That's a underlying issues and a statistical thing when it comes to Tyson. Now he's been challenged by Evander Holyfield, and actually I'm sort of eager to see that, because I think that Mike really did a disservice to himself, his legacy, and a lot of people in the same age group, and a lot of people that are former Hall of Famers, legends, etc., and fans. He didn't really show what could be done, but everyone's going to set that benchmark and have this illusion that, oh, what he did was the best you could expect from the 50. And that's not true. That's not true. That was a compromised Mike for whatever reasons. I don't want to believe it or put it out there, but hey, there could be negotiations that took place before it all went down, where they agreed on what was going to be done and what wasn't going to be done. Bottom line is, that's not a 58-year-old issue that you saw in the ring. That was a Mike Tyson.
Mile for Rain.
I patiently wait and watch a word manifest. I create a legend and kill everyone alive. Surprise? They're just a little older, but what I see. Teacher, if he was a feeling man, then what would I be? Trying to break the cycle of weak fathers. Look around, sometimes why bother? Ask me how I'm living, Allah's wisdom. I'm forgiven, you see it in my mysticism. If to die is freedom, we are gods, we're weak. I'm from a family of fires, we all are. We're black sheep, use yellow, black mama for letting the sun murder a child. We can't agree, the kid was scrambled to stop. Quite a comment. It's letting in my Armageddon. Imagine a time to kill will be my resurrection. I think the thoughts in front of a flame, but in front of me and people treat me one of the same. Deuces, au contraire, give you fine art and rare air. Boys are full of love, watch a fool rush in. Safety net for my people, but I'm pulled too thin. What I paid for in blood, I gain a wisdom. Now in the world,
to him and this particular outing.
Fridays, the betting table. Find me where I lose.
Now, I definitely have pivoted once again. I always thought Evander was the better fighter, but I thought as far as deterioration and what they showed, he would probably be a handful for Evander if they would have had the rematch, which they had planned, and then it got canceled. And then they went their separate ways, and they each had separate exhibitions. Now Evander wants to try to do the trilogy again. Now I'm swinging back in Evander's direction. I think Evander will tear him up. Evander takes care of his body. Look, there are guys, there's a famous British guy, boxing coach on Instagram. He's in his 70s. And you should see the endless combinations. And we're not talking about 20-second clips. He does 2, 3+ minute clips. So you can see he's doing a full round plus. Letting go combinations, letting it go on the bag. And I've seen that guy put work in and give instructionals and stuff like that. If he were to mix it up, make no mistake about it. See, this is, because of what Mike Tyson did, people are going to have this this illusion now. That older people, they may look good, anybody can look good in clips, but if they ever step in there, try to do an exhibition, it's not even going to become competitive, and they're going to be a danger. They may even rethink how they license people now because of what he did. But what he did is not accurate. There are athletes older than him that would have done way better. And that's one of the reasons why I do want to see somebody that was one of his peers coming up in that era kind of clean that up. And either face him or face Jake Paul, because he left a bad after effect. It looked bad. it made it look like they'll probably never allow another 50 plus something to face off against somebody in exhibition after that, because everybody was scared for his safety, etc. That was not an age thing. That was a specific individual situation. So that, I think, needs to be cleared up. That's one of the main reasons why I wanted to air this out in the podcast. But Jake Paul has a lot of individuals calling him out. And as Clarissa Shields aptly stated, they really should just step up and show him. He's got a skill set. He's got acumen to him. He has a following and enough revenue that he can generate. Really, there's no excuse for these top dogs brushing him off when they don't have a lot of mandatories lined up. If they're just sitting there and they're just waiting on either super fights or for somebody to materialize or come up a division, it doesn't make any sense to not entertain Jake Paul, unless you're scared of him. And I do think now there is a little fear. And Andre Ward has been pushed to consider the exhibition, and I'll be honest, even when you hear the way Andre Ward and others talk about it, they know danger. They see Jake Paul is actually dangerous. And as much as they want to talk about his skill is not on a level to be in there with a world champion, if you listen to the way a lot of these guys are talking, some of them are looking for the bag, but they all know, okay, he's legitimately a problem. When I look at things stylistically and I look what he brings to the table, I was looking at stuff and I wasn't just watching Tyson like everybody else. I was watching Jake, because there's certain tendencies when it comes to how he turns his hips, to how he tends to lunge his whole body when he throws the right hook. He tends to throw himself off balance. He doesn't snap the jab enough. He pushes it. And his footwork was always kind of sloppy throughout the fight, where he doesn't really have enough bounce. He doesn't circle. He doesn't pursue properly. His hands drop low. A lot of those issues he corrected, and he actually looked magnificent in spots. And I was taking note because I wanted to see if he had worked on that. And when I saw that, the minute that I realized he made those improvements, I said, "Whoa! Even if Tyson is here for real, he better watch out." But the danger was Jake Paul stepped up to another level, and Tyson wasn't even on a level at all. So that's the reason why you saw him have to back off, because it wasn't even competitive. It was one of those situations where if engagement happened, Tyson would have been like Tyron Woodley. He would have been flatlined. I mean, not just overwhelmed and TKO'd. It would have been a Tyron Woodley kind of experience. But now Andre Ward wants to call him out. I'll be honest. Now Andre Ward's another excellent fighter, excellent IQ, one of my favorites, one of my GOATs. But he does tend to push the jab a little bit too. He tends to have a shortened jab. Doesn't keep it very long. See, this is what you got to understand. When it comes to boxing, it's not all about height. Tyson sometimes used to have an effective jab, but he would tend to be a little short with it. Pacquiao is an excellent example, and I've said this in the past in analysis videos before. Pacquiao, at I believe 67 inches of reach, maybe less, one of the best jabs. Guys with almost twice his reach, he could jab with him. Because it's about how you extend, how you snap, how you pivot, how you dart in with the jab. If you don't have that, and that's one thing I must say, that's one of the issues I have had with Andre Ward. He never really has that kind of a jab. He has a serviceable jab, but he usually tends to be a guy that sets up with 3-4s and body straights. How I see it playing out at his advanced age, I actually think he would be in trouble with Jake Paul. I'm not saying he's going to lose. He'd be in trouble. he'd be in trouble. And it would not be a shock if Jake won in a dominating fashion and maybe even had Andre in trouble at times in the fight, meaning on the way out. So it would be nice if they took the bait and set that up. But I don't know if that's going to happen. But one thing you do know is they won't say it, but they all take him serious now. So we'll see what happens. You've been listening to the Jokatech podcast. Peace.